Hi, has it been too long since we last saw each other, communicated, spoke? I'm sorry if you feel it's been too long, but here I am. Hi, true northers, the world, and humans of the world. After all of us have our mental state as a shared aspect and characteristic in us all. So, hello, humans. I was thinking about my invitation to get therapy, and I'm so happy for the people who've been able to respond and get the care that they did. But the thing I discovered along the way was that I don't think we know that living the kind of lives that we are leading, we actually do need therapy. And a big part of that has to do with what we call our culture. Of course, it's what we've created, so we have to all own it. How we've crafted our day-to-day and call it our lives, our practices, our activities. And we have a way in which we're living our lives that has, in the process, led to us normalizing situations, conditions that people find themselves in that have been normalized, that have been dubbed typical. But all these things are not okay. They are actually indicators for someone to be able to get therapy, because it is obviously a kind of functioning that is not in line with good mental health and wellness. I'm thinking through this as I talk about it, because I really need to put across the message that just because it's normalized, just because it's practiced, just because we label it our culture, our tradition, that doesn't make it healthy for us. And therefore, it's no reason for any one of you out there to hold on to something for the purposes of holding on to culture or tradition or belief or conformity. You shouldn't suffer that kind of pressure, and you do deserve to get the care that you need, and you are worth every effort. So I'll probably just go through a list of a few things that might ring true for you, that you might want to just consider as a reason for you to just seek, even if it's an initial consultation. Okay? So we have anxiety and depression, right? The sheer thought of doing something, even just the thought of it, like just thinking about it, sends your whole body into a state of disequilibrium, and you feel fear. You know, palpitations, sweaty palms, hyperventilation, you know, and the thinking that if you even dare, something so catastrophic is gonna happen. And in the end, you make the choice to withdraw from the action you are to take. That's a little bit about anxiety. Of course, depression is this feeling of being extremely low in mood and affect, being extremely sad, to perhaps even neglecting your basic hygiene, to having thoughts of taking your own life, to withdrawing from your normal day-to-day, within that pendulum. Then there's trauma. This is an event that happened to you. It's usually the past. It's not anticipated or anything like that. So something happened to you in the past where you felt that your life was absolutely at risk and you were in danger of losing your life. It could also be somebody else that you care for, that you love, was in danger of losing their lives, like a child, a mother, a father, somebody you just really love, a husband, a wife, maybe involved in an accident, or they had a health emergency. That can be able to cause that. So the thing that makes it traumatic is that everything about that particular event, whether you consciously picked it up or not, keeps taking you back to that day and creating a lot of discomfort in your life, in that it's limiting your ability to just have a full life experience, and it completely demobilizes you. Okay? That's just a little bit about it. Of course, the story is pretty long. Then we have addiction. And this is when you have to take part in an activity repeatedly, even when you hate it, even when you regret it, you feel guilt, you feel shame, even when it is self-destructive, but you can't stop yourself. And it's like the more you try and stop yourself, it's like the more you do it, the more you feel guilty about it, the more you do it, the more you feel guilty about it, the more you do it. But immediately you do it, you have this sense of euphoria where you are like in a different dimension, and you're so relaxed and you're so easy, and you're in a place where you'd like to stay forever. It lasts for a very short time, and then when that moment is over, you crash, you become extremely, extremely low in your mood. And the moment you gather yourself, you're just thinking of how you'll be able to get that high again. So this is not necessarily in drugs or alcohol. It is in food, it is in sex, it is in shopping, it is in gambling. So just something for you to consider, okay? Then we have compulsive behavior. This is where you basically do not have a bypass between your thoughts, your feelings, and your behavior. It's like whatever you're thinking, whatever you're feeling, you act on it, and you can't be able to either slow down your reaction or stop it or contemplate over it. It could be that you compulsively are reactive, so you might just feel angry, and that translates to physical altercations. So that's just an example of compulsive behavior. You don't have the bypass. Then we have advanced childhood experiences. This is basically the experiences during your childhood that stunted you. Like, that's just the summary of it all. You know, what we say about adverse childhood experiences is those experiences where your childhood is stalled and you have to get into the dimension of like a grown-up. It's like that time where, that event, that incident where you lost your innocence as a child. And this may come in the form of sexual abuse. This may come in the form of physical beating. This may come in the form of witnessing infidelity in the home. It may come in the form of witnessing violence in your home. It may come in the form of having to just lack of stability in the home. It may come in the form of the death of a parent, the death of a sibling, the death of even a pet. Yeah, and any kind of experience in your childhood that goes unaddressed, but it does have a very significant effect on you. Okay, so there are quite a number, those are just a few. Then we have complicated grief. This is when, of course, you are undergoing you've undergone some form of loss, and you begin to adapt a lifestyle that helps you to numb the grief or escape the grief. And it shows up in areas of your life that have to do with you not being able to normalize your functionality after the period of grief. And the period of grief may be, any certain amount of time, but as you're going through that, as you're grieving, you're still at that level where you can take care of yourself, take care of your responsibilities, and grief is alongside you. But with complicated grief, it's like you haven't processed your grief, and instead you have adapted means and ways of being able to numb yourself from that particular grief, and then it shows up in some form of dysfunction in your life. And there are certain spheres within your life that have a dark shadow over them because of that. That's complicated grief. So we have healing of family and generational dysfunctional systems. And I guess the best way to talk about this is to give an example. Like when somebody says to you, in our family, we are alcoholics. In our family, we are violent. In our family, we take our own lives. In our family, we die young. In our family, blah, 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 blah. My grandfather, my mother, I believe we've gone as far as even calling them curses. Tumerogwa. Huko kwetu tumerogwa, kule wamerogwa. But really, when you examine the family system, we come to find that there are certain processes that the family is engaged in where they set themselves up in a kind of a way that will be the end result, irrespective of whether it has even skipped a generation. And it's just habits. It's family patterns, family rituals, family events, family norms, family beliefs, right? This family, the men never stay with their wives. This family, the girls never get married. This family, all children become thieves and prostitutes, and you hear it all the time. This family, even their grandfather, even their grandmother. And yeah, it's repeated several times and everybody begins to buy it. Our family is like that. But when you understand the patterns and then you understand the processes of interventions that can actually break those generational cycles, then you realize that you don't have to actually accept the label of it runs in the family. you don't. So we have the promotion of personal psychological health and wellness. You know, you may not be experiencing all the things that I've talked about above, but you certainly want to ensure that you remain operating at an optimal level, that, you know, your car has done 5,000, 10,000 kilometers and you've taken it to the garage, or you've done it yourself, you've just given it service. It's the same thing when we are talking about psychological hygiene. You essentially engage in practices that are able to renew you, rejuvenate you, and sustain your mental health and wellness. So that's what we teach you about as well. Aha! Provision of psychological first aid. We do that as well. And yes, there is a thing, just like you have physical first aid, there are things you can be able to do during a psychological emergency that you can apply to yourself or to other people. And yes, it is taught. So yeah, that's also here. Then, of course, we have teaching and instructions and trainings in all matters related to mental health. Yeah. For all ages and for essentially all institutions. As long as you're human, we are there. Then, of course, we have work performance related matters, like from an organizational perspective, you're like, why can I not feel motivated at work? Why is it that I am the kind of leader nobody likes? Why is it I am the kind of manager nobody has authority for? How come nobody follows me as a leader? What is it about me? What is it about me? Okay? And I guess finally, matters to just do with your heart as a person. Why can't I sustain a relationship? Why can't I find somebody to marry? Why do all my relationships crash and burn? So, of course, issues to do with intrapersonal relationships, to do with love and affection, sex and intimacy, that we do as well. And any other psychological issues you may have going on. If you are also a patient of psychiatry, of course, to be able to learn other kind of processes of promoting your psychological wellness, you know, like meditation, like breath work, like energetic work. This is the place. So I hope that's helpful as you just reflect on your own mental health and wellness and consider whether you might be a good candidate to just volunteer yourself to have psychotherapy and some form of psychological support. So as usual, thank you for listening. It's always good to see you guys, watch the videos, and send me inbox me questions. I hope as time goes by, people can have the courage to just put your comments on the comment section and just have them answered from there. But in the meantime, of course, you're most welcome to ask your questions, and I will answer them or somebody else will, but you'll definitely get a response. So until then, please do take care of yourself, and remember, we're in 2022, and this year, the work is to promote your mental health and wellness. Don't you forget it, okay? Okay, ciao everyone. See you on the next video.